Om Shri Sai Ram. Prem Vahini Chapter 1. Stream of Love. First, good character is spiritual power. More than all previous eras, yugas, the present one, the Kali Yuga, offers multifarious paths through which people can acquire discrimination, viveka. If it is education that is needed, there are many schools and institutions. And if it is wealth that one is after, there are various avenues by which, with effort, it can be honorably earned. In spite of this, however, we don't find any increase in human happiness or peace. In fact, there is much more misery than in previous ages. What is the reason? The reason lies in human behavior, in the way people live. Human life is undoubtedly the highest in evolution, and to give it meaning, spiritual endeavor that is pure and holy, is essential. For this way of life, character is all important. Character makes life immortal. It survives even death. Some say that knowledge is power, but it is not true. Character is power. Even the acquisition of knowledge demands a good character. So everyone must yearn to attain flawless character without any trace of evil. Note that Buddha, Jesus Christ, Shankaracharya and Vivekananda, as well as great sages and saints and devotees of the Lord, all these are treasured in the memory of people even to this day. What quality made them all memorable for all time? I say that it is the character of each. Without character, wealth, education and social status are of no avail. Character is the fragrance of the flower. It gives value and worth. Poets, painters, artists and scientists may be great, each in their own field, but without character they can have no standing in society. Doubts will certainly arise whether those who are now greeted with respect by society have the character that we consider essential to greatness. But I am speaking of a society and a character that cling to certain unchanging values. Ordinarily, society attaches varying importance to certain qualities from day to day, and fashions in character change with the vagaries of society. But the basic nature of a flawless character is eternal. It is the same, whatever the vicissitudes of society. In this sense, it is immortal, being associated with another immortal entity, the Atma. Second, reshape character by cultivating noble qualities. Among the qualities that make up a flawless character, love, patience, forbearance, steadfastness and charity are the highest and have to be revered. The 100 little deeds that we indulge in every day harden into habits. These habits shape the intelligence and mold our outlook and life. All that we weave in our imagination, seek in our ideals, and yearn in our aspirations leave an indelible imprint on the mind. Distorted by these, we form our knowledge, our picture of the world around us, and it is to this picture that we get attached. One's present is but the result of one's past and the habits formed during that long period. But whatever the nature of the character that one has come by, it can certainly be modified by changing the accustomed process of thought and imagination. The wickedness of nobody is incorrigible. Wasn't Angulimala the robber turned into a kind-hearted person by the Buddha? Didn't the thief Ratnakara become Valmiki the sage? By conscious effort, habits can be changed and character refined. People always have within them, within their reach, the capacity to challenge their evil propensities and to change their evil habits. By selfless service, renunciation, devotion, prayer, and ratiocination, the old habits that bind people to earth can be discarded, and new habits that take them along the divine path can be instilled into their lives. The purpose of all spiritual literature, poems, epics, books, and periodicals is to discuss the nature of this character, its ways and vagaries, and to inform about the process of reshaping it. The Sanatan Sarathi has just this aim in view. It does not seek either the exhibition of erudition or the acquisition of name and fame. But it has to be said that the mere reading of a book or journal will not vouchsafe discrimination, viveka. That which is seen, heard, or read must be put into practice in actual life. Without this, reading is mere waste of time. If anything is read to pass the time, it passes the time and nothing remains. Third, read life histories of saints and sages. Books are available in plenty and at very cheap prices. The Vedas, scriptures, Shastras, and Puranas can be obtained and read by everyone. There is also no dearth of spiritual teachers, gurus. Schools abound and are ostensibly granting the boon of knowledge. Facilities for training the mind are plenty and within reach, and yet from nowhere is heard the note of content at having partaken of the nectar of spiritual wisdom jnana. When I see the heaps of books that lie around everywhere, I feel that the wisdom inside a book cannot succeed in penetrating the heavy binding and emerge into the light. God is hidden by the mountain ranges of lust, anger, envy, and selfishness. So too, the Sun of Wisdom is hidden by these huge heaps of books. Though these books have spread to all corners of the earth, we can't say that culture or wisdom has increased. The human is still not far from the ape. An attractive binding and title, a beautiful picture, these are what the reader seeks, that is transitory pleasure and momentary contentment. Only those who, by means of discrimination, select the books they read and practice what they read can realize truth and enjoy everlasting bliss. Only those people live worthwhile lives. Therefore, those who seek the highest path and who revel in thoughts of God should strive to read only the life histories of saints and sages and books that help the contemplation of the divine. Aimless reading of books all and sundry, whatever comes to hand, will make confusion only worse confounded. It gives no profit. It confers no peace. Fourth, cultivate one-pointedness and equal vision. Above all, cultivate one-pointed steadfastness, ekagrata, in whatever you do. Impartial vision, samadrishti, is auspicious vision, shubhadrishti. The lion, though king of the forest, turns back every few steps while walking through the woods, because it is afraid of being pursued. Fear in the mind makes the vision falter. Violence within the heart distorts the vision and distracts the sight. People must have impartial vision. All creation must appear as equally auspicious to their eyes. They must look upon all with as much love and faith as they have in themselves. For nothing is evil in creation, no, not even an iota. Evil appears as such only through faulty vision. Creation gets colored by the nature of the glasses we wear. By itself, it is eternally pure and holy. There have always been, there are, and there will always be teachers who reveal to people and who instruct them in attaining the heights they can reach through one-pointed steadfastness and the fullest manifestation of their physical, mental, and intellectual powers. But people's minds revel in external objects and in purposeless observation and criticism of the outside world. How then can their minds be trained to be steadfast? Each one should ask themselves this question. Great souls, Mahatmas, and outstanding sages were also people like me. They were also embodied beings. If they could attain perfection, so can I, if I follow their method. What profit do I get spending my time in discovering the faults and weakness of others? Fifth, first search and correct faults within yourself. Thus, the first spiritual practice, sadhana, is to search for the faults and weaknesses within yourself and to strive to correct them and become perfect. The unceasing toil of each succeeding day has as its aim and justification this consummation to make one's last days sweet and pleasant. But each day also has its evening. If the day is spent in good deeds, then the evening blesses us with deep sleep, invigorating, refreshing sleep, the sleep about which it is said that it is akin to samadhi. One has only a short span of life on earth, but even in this short life, one can attain divine bliss by wisely and carefully using the time. Two people, in appearance the same, ostensibly of the same mold, grow under the same conditions, but one turns out to be an angel while the other stays on with their animal nature. What's the reason for this differential development? Habits, behavior, formed out of these habits, and the character into which that behavior has solidified. People are creatures of character. Sixth, life is a selfless, loving sacrifice. To a superficial observer, life appears to be a rotation of eating and drinking, toiling and sleeping. But verily, life has a much greater meaning, a much deeper significance. Life is a sacrifice, yajna. Each little act is an offering to the Lord. If the day is spent in deeds performed in this spirit of surrender, what else can sleep be except total immersion in the Godhead, samadhi? People commit the great fault of identifying themselves with the body. People accumulate a variety of things for the upkeep and comfort of the body. Even when the body becomes weak and decrepit with age, people attempt to bolster it by one means or other. But how long can death be postponed? When Yama's warrant comes, each has to depart. Position 7th. Thou art that, Tat Tvam Asi. This is the highest and holiest spiritual maxim, Mahavakya. You are the indestructible Atmic principle, Atma Tattva. It is for the sake of the Atmic principle that you have this body. So, in the attempt to realize the Supreme Lord Parameshwara, here and now you must be prepared to offer this body as a sacrifice at any moment. Utilize your authority over this body to foster the welfare of the world. This body is but an instrument, an implement given by God. Let it serve its purpose. Until the realization of the purpose for which the implement is given, it is your duty to watch over it vigilantly and protect it from injury and disablement. During winter, woolen clothes are worn to withstand the rigor of the cold gales. But when the cold subsides, they are discarded. So too, when the cold gales of material life don't affect us in the least, the material body is no longer essential. One is conscious of only the incorporeal body.